wanted to a nation based on war. I wanted to be free, nothing holding me back from where I want to go. I thought about it, what was the choice that I made? Was it take away the money, don't give up your money, use Bitcoin whenever you pay. Use Bitcoin whenever you pay.
Hello and welcome to the Bitcoin.com podcast. We have Tatiana here today from Crypto Media Hub. She's a crypto entrepreneur. She's a Bitcoin songwriter and singer and speaker. And welcome to the show, Tatiana.
Thank you so much for having me on.
So tell us a little bit about what you're doing with Crypto Media Hub. You've got some other things going on with Tokenly and your own coin as an artist. You've been a singer. Tell us about what you're doing as an artist and your own coin.
Yeah, sure. So for people who don't know me, or if they do know me, I guess they would know me as a singer-songwriter. But since I entered into the Bitcoin space, I've actually done a lot of kind of cool, fun stuff as well, including music and Bitcoin. When I first got in, I did a Bitcoin jingle and I performed that for everybody, and it was really well received. We did it at the Buenos Aires Latin American Bitcoin Conference. It was the first one, and it was when Bitcoin was going through the roof in December of 2013. I then went on to create the first ever artist cryptocurrency in 2014 with Adam B. Levine and his team, which later evolved into being Tokenly, which just got funded on Bank to the Future. Adam and I wanted to create solutions to connect artists directly to their fans because artists face a lot of different problems today. For example, you can crowdfund from your fan base, but there's a limited amount of engagement during that. And after the crowdfund is over, you usually lose touch with the people. And also you have a fixed prize. So, if you want to give me $25 and all I have is a t-shirt and you don't like that t-shirt, then you're stuck with it. And that's basically it, right? But with a Tatiana coin, you would actually just get a digital gift certificate that you can spend at any time in my store. You can sell it to somebody later if you decide that you don't really want it. It's not useful to you. You can break it up into little pieces and send, your friends each a couple dollars worth. And I thought that was, the first thing that we really thought of, and we did a crowdfund. But as time has gone on, we realized that we also needed tools in order to use the coins to engage with our fan base. And what we've done is built a series of different kinds of tools like a streaming function, a chat function, a group chat function, and token controlled access, so exclusive content. And we've packaged that into a mobile experience with an app that we actually are in alpha right now testing it out of the prototype. And then we also have something online, which the Tokenly team is a little bit more responsible for. Because the app, we're working with Vermont to build it. And either way, the coin will be mine. So I'm looking forward to experimenting as we move along.
So it's an interesting idea for artists to have their own crypto token, crypto coin, or whatever. Is the idea that if you invested in an artist's crypto coin, that if that artist became mainstream or popular, the value of that coin would appreciate? So it's almost like a personal stock. Is that the idea?
Well, I don't think it's like a personal stock because, there's no guaranteed relationship there, right? It's basically a supporting thing. But if you were to get, for example, a baseball card before somebody got to be a really famous baseball card player, you would have this sort of, street cred kind of thing that would go up in value. So we're not really sure about how that's going to play out, but what we're trying to focus on is the ability to actually communicate with your fans as well. I've been really frustrated with Facebook because, I have a certain amount of fans on Facebook, but I put up a post and those people, they liked my page. They have that relationship with me. But if I want to post something, Facebook won't let me have it be seen by more than 100 or 200 people because they want me to pay them. And my fans don't know that they're missing out about news from me. And now there's all of a sudden this third party there. So yeah, I guess people could potentially buy the coin and potentially sell it to somebody else for a higher price later on or something like that. But I hope that it's more about the engagement level. And what I see even further than that is allowing the tokens to explore other kinds of ecosystems. So say you have your band and I have my band and I think your band is really cool. And we decide that, okay, a Tatiana coin will give people access to your band's music or vice versa. And there's different kinds of relationships that you can build up that function in a similar way to how we interact socially, but through crypto. And you've also been able to onboard people into using cryptocurrencies, which is, I think, the real I guess, Trojan horse or whatever.
And so you raised $10,000 through Tatiana Coin to fund your album, and you're trying to raise more now?
Yeah, so what we did was we raised about $10,000 back in 2014. I went into the studio and we have all this cool video footage. I convinced the studio to accept Bitcoin. My engineer and my musicians, everybody accepted Bitcoin to be paid and everything. So, as far as I know, it's the first real full crypto album. And so that's been really exciting. And we've kind of been sitting on it because I wanted to release it when the technology was ready, because I didn't just make this so I could make my own coin. I think that it's actually a problem that all artists face, right? How to get your money to do your recordings and live and eat. And then how do you make sure that you're not playing to an empty room? How do you connect with your fans? So what we're trying to do is allow other artists to test it out and see if they can give us some more feedback. And so we could be building tools where artists can have true independence. And no matter how technology changes, people don't want to be on Facebook anymore. Now they want to be on Instagram, or they want to be on Vine or something. You don't have to keep rebuilding your audiences for these other companies.
Yeah, I think Andreas talks about a future where he envisions school children having their own cryptocurrency, and so it'll be interesting to see. I mean, it's kind of like altcoins for individuals, so it's very cool, and I'll keep an eye on Tokenly and see how that develops. And again, they were funded through Bank to the Future, and so you said there's an app in progress now for Tokenly?
It's not really. We're doing it in partnership with Tokenly. So Tokenly is sort of my home base, right? And we'll be growing that out eventually. And then there's also Fermat, which I don't know if you've heard of that, but there have been a few articles. We had a nice piece in Forbes and a lot of press. And basically Fermat is building the app for us. And then that'll be something that we can build out and customize for other artists as well. Cool. So it'll be basically all your artist experience in one app.
Cool. So tell me about the events that you're going to be at. There's Freedom Fest. These are all next month. There's Freedom Fest, or July, I should say. Freedom Fest blockchain event in Las Vegas. And then there's D10E in San Francisco, and Andreas Antonopoulos is going to be there as well. Those are the main three events you have scheduled for July?
I've got quite a bit of things going on in July. I just got back from Pork Fest, and before that I was in Nashville and in Orlando for the National Libertarian Party Convention, as well as Los Angeles. But in July, I'm starting out in Freedom Fest, which I'm really excited about. It's the first Freedom Fest where I'm speaking, and I'll be speaking on the Silk Road panel. And then there will be the blockchain event right after that. So I believe that's the 18th to the 21st of July in Las Vegas at Caesars. And that's sort of part of this other event called All About the API. So that should be really cool, because we might have some crossover opportunities to teach new people about Bitcoin and blockchain stuff. And then I'll be flying out late at night on the 19th into San Francisco for the D10E conference. And I'm speaking on a music panel, and hopefully I'll get to do a little bit of music in these. We're still trying to work things out. But either way, there's the New Jersey Libertarian Party picnic. So I'm going to be playing there. So that'll be fun right before I leave for Las Vegas on July 9th. So it's a really full month.
Now, you mentioned the Silk Road there, and you're doing art for Ross. Tell us about that and about your involvement. You've done an album for Ross, is that correct?
I wouldn't say the album is for Ross, but I have a song on there called The Silk Road. And I think Silk Road is very symbolic of a lot of different things that are manifesting themselves from our culture. And I became really good friends with Lynn Ulbricht, who is a warrior if I've ever met one. She's the mother of Ross Ulbricht. And she has basically been traveling around the world talking about her son's case, because there are obviously larger implications. This isn't just about drugs. It's, I could go on. But anyway, I got a very close feeling with Lynn, and we became very good friends. And I've since then become friends with the rest of the family. And I've even gone to visit with Ross. And last year, on Christmas, I was thinking, what could I do for him to cheer him up? Because once you go into prison and you see what that's like, it completely changes your perception of, before you knew it was wrong, and now it's just unacceptable. And so I thought, what could I do to do something nice? And I made him a picture. And I'm not the greatest artist or anything. I just kind of made it for fun. It looks like a sixth grader did it. But I found it really meditative, and he really, really loved it. And so since then, I've been making him little art pieces. And Lynn and I were talking about how can we get people to know just what a wonderful person he is and to engage with him, because he recently did this picture where we revealed, people would make donations. It was a game online, and it would reveal the picture that he did. And it was the trial I saw, which he did from prison with pencil. It's a pencil drawing of obviously the trial he saw. And so I'm just seeing this correlation of art and music. And on our way to PorcFest, I was thinking, what could we do? And it hit me, art for Ross. So we set up a really cool table with, I don't know, markers and glitter and crayons and all different art supplies and paints. And all these different people came over and they started creating something. And it's been really sparking a lot of ideas for how we can engage artists and remind them that through cryptocurrencies, they can be a little bit more free with their messaging, and they can have more control over how our culture is shaped. Because I don't think we're going to get anywhere with politics. I don't believe that the president is going to save or break the world. I mean, it's just nonsense. So I think that the more that we can get artists turned on to cryptocurrencies and causes and becoming activated, I think that that's really exciting. So I guess that's the long answer to, yeah, we're working closely with the Silk Road, and I'm a big supporter of the Albrecht family.
Yeah, and the trial there was kind of a sad story the way that went. There was so much evidence that was suppressed. It didn't even come out during the trial. It wasn't the jurors weren't allowed to even hear that the DEA agents were actually committing felonies, embezzling, stealing funds, millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin, or something. So
that's certainly covered in the appeal, which was quite thorough. I mean, this was I don't know, over 1,000 pages for the initial appeal. And then the government just replied. But in about, I believe August 1st is when the Albrecht family is going to be submitting their final, or I guess their defense is going to be submitting their final back and forth from the appeal process. And then it goes higher and they decide who are the judges and stuff like that. But obviously there are a lot of issues to contest. I mean, it's a really egregious case, and it really shattered my belief in justice. So I guess that supports my interest in cryptocurrencies as well, right? It's not just for artists, it's not just for transferring money, but there are a lot of interesting legal applications like Pamela Morgan is experimenting with. So I don't know. I mean, it's a really crazy world out there. And I think that people need to speak up, and artists are in a unique position to be able to say something about the Silk Road. You know, if you have a business that does, maybe it's a Bitcoin business and you're sympathetic to Ross, but it's a banking industry, you can't, talk to them about the Silk Road, no matter how you may personally feel about it. But this is an issue that it's not just about Ross. It's about all these other people suffering from the drug war, locked up in cages, costing as much as $100,000 a person a year to taxpayers. And it's creating more violence. One of the things that I found really striking when I was in the prison was there was a woman, and she was talking to another lady about how her kids used to get straight A's. And now that their father's in prison, they're getting D's and F's. And you have to think about what are the repercussions of this throughout society. And, I hope that with the interest in the album and the uniqueness of the artist coin, we're the first one, so we'll get some good press from that. I believe I want to use that for something that has some meaning. And I think that the drug war and the prison industrial complex these are issues that people from both sides of the aisle can come together on. I disagree with Bernie supporters on anything economics, but we definitely agree on the drug war and we agree on the prison industrial complex. So let's get that. Let's get the people out of the cages. And I think that art is a perfect medium to do that. And that's being shown with the art that Ross has done. Other people are writing songs. And we're going to be sharing all these different pieces that everybody made on the Free Ross Twitter handle. So I don't know. I'm really excited about it. I think it's a really good way to turn something positive out of a horrifying situation. And that's what Ross wants. I mean, he's an extraordinarily positive person. I remember at one point, this is a guy facing double life in jail. And at one point he said to me, Tatiana, I don't want you to worry about what happened with your voice or what happened with me or with anything really, because as long as we're alive, there is reason to hope. And it's very discouraging to have a friend that's in prison for such a long time, an infinite amount of time, presumably. But if he can find a way to be positive, then I can find a way to be activated and to be positive as well, and go out and use this as an opportunity to experiment with different ideas and challenge our society to do something better other than throwing people in cages like animals.
Yeah, a victimless crime. And
exactly.
I can't believe he got 2 life sentences for that.
We'll get him out of there eventually. People just gotta, participate and get the word out.
What's the level of optimism on his appeal process? How much left is there to appeal?
this can last for a very long time, and it's hard to understand what that process is, right? But as far as I can tell, it could last up to a year. But the main, giving back of the answers is coming up August 1st. And then I guess the appeal people can come back and ask more questions and have some sort of a thing, but it's unsure if it'll even get to that point. They still have to pick the judges. So there are a lot of steps, and Lynn just did a talk about it at Pork Fest, and she'll also be speaking at Freedom Fest with me. Well, on her own. We're traveling together. We travel together quite a lot, and so then that's when we'll know a little bit more about what are the next steps, because it's hard to tell.
So, changing subjects a little bit, you're a woman interested in Bitcoin, and that's not very common. I think Bitcoin users are about 90 to 95% men. Now, my wife loves Bitcoin, and so that's great. I'm very happy that she's into Bitcoin like me. But tell us, now you did a course with Stephanie Murphy on Bitcoin 101. What is needed to get women engaged with Bitcoin?
Well, when people talk about there not being women in Bitcoin, I always think it's kind of funny, because that's like saying, well, actually, I heard these one guys, they said that women hate Bitcoin. Like, no, women don't hate money. They hate you. And they don't like how guys explain it. So, I remember when I had Bitcoin first explained to me, I had explained by Tony Glippy and Stephen Pear. And now I have to say that those guys really tried their best. And Tony, of course, is a particularly, enthusiastic speaker and stuff. But I didn't care, because I didn't understand why I would need this. So another thing that happened once I was at some Bitcoin events was I turned to a friend of mine and I asked him a question, and he said, "Oh, well, it's like blah, blah." And it was almost like a character of this, I don't know. It was bad. And I turned to him and I said, "That's why women don't like Bitcoin, because people don't want to feel stupid. They just want to answer. They want to ask a question and they want a clear answer." So another thing that, I've noticed is a lot of these tech guys is they'll talk about the technology, but I don't care about the technology. I want to know how I can use it. And Jeffrey Tucker, a good friend of mine, was very instrumental in kind of illustrating the power of Bitcoin for me. And that really ignited my understanding and my desire to understand. So I think women a lot of times are better communicators, and we can kind of tell the story. We relate it a little bit more to our lives. And I have to say that it's really great when I see so many women in the Bitcoin space, because I think that there needs to be more than just, the programmer guy that is in the dark all the time and doesn't leave the house and that kind of thing. So I don't know. I think like it just depends on what kind of people are talking about it. If you get people who are like entertainment minded, then they're going to make it a little bit more interesting. If you get somebody who naturally spends a lot of time behind the computer, they're not going to be that great at making it accessible for the regular person.
I recently found out that women in Saudi Arabia aren't even legally allowed to open a bank account without a male guardian's permission. So I think Bitcoin would be extremely relevant for women in that country, or other countries with similar legal suppression like that.
Well, absolutely. I mean, I was just on the John Stossel show, and I spoke about how Code to Inspire is helping girls in Afghanistan, right? These women had a very hard time getting paid, and if they hide their physical money somewhere in the house, God knows what happens if somebody finds it, right? Maybe they're not allowed to have it. We always think of the oppression. Well, if we want to solve the oppression, you need to empower people and allow them to have autonomy and control over their money. And women are absolutely primed more than anybody in a lot of ways, and especially people in disadvantaged areas, to being able to use Bitcoin for remittances even, and a multitude of other reasons. Connie Glippy over at BitGive, she's doing a charitable transparency project using Bitcoin to show how donations are spent. And everybody loves charity stuff, right? Everybody wants to save the world and things like that. Well, let's show people how powerful this tech can be.
I think the other group that's kind of excluded from the financial system is those that are under banking age, under 16. And it's great to see that group starting to get more interested in Bitcoin as well. Hopefully, if some mainstream artists start to use crypto tokens to be some kind of an artist currency, that would be interesting to see if that can engage the younger group, because I think that Bitcoin has a lot of potential to be the currency of the next generation, to actually connect with the the next generation before they're of banking age, a 10-year-old can save and spend and use Bitcoin, whereas he cannot go down and open a bank account or get a credit card. So,
I never thought of that, but that's true. I remember, I don't know, it's like you feel like you're in prison before you're 16 or 18 as a kid.
Yeah, cool. So why is Bitcoin important for the future? What is your 10,000 foot view on that? And what do you think Bitcoin is going to change 10 years from now? What does the world look like with Bitcoin?
Oh, I don't know if I can make any predictions. I think that we're at a precipice. I think that, I don't know, maybe it seems a little bit dramatic or something, but it seems a little bit like we're at a point of a crossroads of good and evil, right? And which way are we going to go? Is it going to be this totalitarian nightmare that all those dystopian novels always warned us about? Or are we going to allow technology and the fruits of our labor to be beneficial to everybody and to see massive empowerment around the world? I think that's a really hard call. I think that Bitcoin can be used for good. And I'm sometimes disappointed that with the constant focus on the application in the financial industry, I think that it should be more equitable. And that was sort of the spirit of Bitcoin. But I mean, it's a technology. It could be used for different things. But I hope that we don't lose track of the reasons why so many people from so many different backgrounds came together in order to participate in Bitcoin. I mean, people left their jobs in order to be a part of this movement. And I just hope that that can be kept in the forefront of people's minds.
It definitely is a movement. It definitely is more than just an economic tool. And I think you realize that when you realize how passionate the Bitcoin community is about this technology and about seeing it succeed. So it's some people have said it's almost like a religion. So cool. Well, thanks again for coming on the podcast, Tatiana. And again, this is Tatiana with Crypto Media Hub, and she's working with Tokenly. She's got some Bitcoin songs. If you search for Bitcoin Tatiana on YouTube, you'll find those. And thanks again for coming on the podcast.
Thanks very much for having me.